So then, I mean, let me start off with you, Daniel. Fans are crucial to every sports, everywhere. And their engagement as well matters. The world is changing again. Sports is changing. It's moving away from just consuming it on media to how you engage the fans. For you, where are we now with sports and fans?
Okay, so social dominates, absolutely, but you still cannot get away from broadcast. The single biggest issue that I see, and it's here in Ghana as well, and I work across Sub-Sahara, so I speak with the Tanzanian league, Zambian leagues, Ugandan, pretty much, a lot of leagues, and we work with CAF. But the single biggest issue I find is that not all matches are broadcast. So you have a broadcaster that says, woohoo, we've got 200 out of 306 matches. That's not good enough. You need every match because every team is important. So without that fundamental visibility, and it doesn't have to be expensive these days, it doesn't have to be OB vans everywhere. You can have very, very cost-effective cameras, put in stadium, mobile cameras, but you've got to get fundamentally the content out there. What is the content? It's the match. So once you've got the match into people's eyeballs, then things can flow. I'll stop there. I'll add to other things later as well. But
right,
first step, get the matches broadcast.
Okay, so let me come to Neil on that. Could you please pass the mic to Neil? Yeah, and he makes a very good point. It is the accessibility of the content that matters, broadcasting the games and what have you. There's also been this opinion from many that, okay, if you're going to put that game on broadcast, if you're going to broadcast it, then there wouldn't be maybe a need for fans to show up at venues. Where do we sit on that? Is there truth in that? Is there a middle ground? Or how do you marry those concepts?
Well, at the end of the day, what's your objective? Is to get the content to them.
Yeah.
So the ideal would be for them to be in the stadium or at the venues wherever the sport is going on. But if it's the case that they spend their time on a particular platform or a particular device, then you should be targeting that device. Because the world has moved on from field stadium. They also are passionate enough about whatever sport it is, whether it's a sports hall they're going to be in or it's a stadium they're going to be at. There are people who prefer to consume the content in the electronic space. So you need to target that space. So it comes back to Daniel's point that find where the fans are. It's about knowing where they are. If they're not coming to the venue for the event, go to wherever they are. The venue might look a bit sparse. So during COVID, what happened? There were some teams, I'm using football as an example, who put name tags in spaces in the stadium to represent a fan who had bought a ticket. It wouldn't be the physical human being there, but you found that they produced sound effects that matched whatever was going on the field of play. It created or simulated a stadium environment for those of us who are at home. COVID-19 had locked us down. Watching the games I think that season where Liverpool won the EPL after so many years. Yes. So it's about being creative, about using the space when it's not physically occupied, but targeting the fan and wherever the fan is. You need to know where your consumer is. Where would your consumer want to consume the content, which is your product? If the consumer is not coming or the feet are not walking to wherever you are, go to the space where they are. And I think that's where we should be at, is to understand consumer behavior in such a way that we target them at the places where they are present. And by so doing, so you have them maybe on Facebook. So you now are selling statistics from engagement on Facebook or from social media impressions that your content is deriving. That's what you sell. You're no longer selling 40,000 at the Accra Sports Stadium per match times X number of matches because they are not coming there. Yeah. But they are in the social media space. You pick the content from, mine the data, send it to your sponsors, and then you get the nexus between where they are and where we want to catch them at.
Brilliant. Yeah. All right, then I mean that leads us to maybe then strategies now, because then we are looking at people who are consuming the game on different platforms and people who you also want to attract to the match venues. How do you strategize to maximize these two or perhaps more avenues of engaging fans?
You just need to study the trends and understand the consumers at where they are and meet them at their point of need. I mean, largely, I think there's a study out there about 70% of of venues are running dry. Only about 30% are always filled across the globe. So it's not only peculiar to Ghana. And if you look at places where fans still go to the stadium, they have certain features, certain unique features. Aside the fact that they are very, very much embedded with their communities, the facility itself makes it very, very difficult for you to not to be in that space. So more and more people are now not building infrastructure just for footballing purposes. They are building infrastructure to serve multiple needs. So people in the US, for instance, go to match venues because of hamburgers, a particular type of hamburger. There's a study like that, and not because of the football, not because of the sport. There are certain venues in the NFL where there's a swimming pool, an artificial swimming pool, a lounge kind of settings, and people go there. The game is going on, but you can tell clearly they are not there because of the game. Exactly. So it's about studying the trends and trying to adjust yourself towards beating the trends. The average fan is becoming more and more sophisticated. They want to go to venues where there are LED light, LED screens. They want to get on the screen, fan cams, the kind of food that is served, the kind of drinks that is served, the kind of people they get to meet. These are all things that come together to drive fan engagement, especially even to attract them to the match venue. So basically, the main strategy, in my opinion, is to study the trend, look at the needs, the growing needs of the sophisticated fan, and try as much as possible to adjust to meet those needs. Once you're able to do that, you see that that kind of effective relationship will be there.
All right, let me still stay on you there, Ameenu, because then how can we use sports organization storytelling, especially storytelling and personal narratives to build strong connection with fans?
In Game of Thrones, I don't know those who watch Game of Thrones, when Brandon was made king, he was made king purposely because of his ability to tell stories, stories of the past and forecast into the future. It's very, very important. We are all about stories. The main purpose for which an organization exists should have some form of correlation with its targeted audience. You should be able to tell a story that meets them, that they can be a part of. And in my experience, if you are not able to tell that story well and to strike a chord with your targeted audience, you will obviously miss out. And that's what a lot of clubs in Ghana are missing out on. We have a lot of clubs, a lot of tradition, a lot of culture, a lot of history in there. But unfortunately, they've not been able to carry this message across the generations that are, time passed, people will tell you about the way House of Folk fans have rallies before they go for games. They kind of chant music and all that. Over across generations, you've seen that these kind of things have waned, and it's of no surprise that it shows at the gates, because we've not been able to carry this culture, this rich history, this storytelling across the generations that are coming up. So yes, again, you need to go in there and understand the kind of message you are packaging for your targeted audience. I think that's the most important thing. Study the trends, see where you can place yourself to meet the growing needs of your targeted audience. Once you're able to do that, I think that's, for me, is the starting point.
All right. All right, I'm coming to you now, Neil. You have massive experience in organizing competitions, engaging fans, but we want to get a sense of, a practical example of some of these successful fan engagement campaigns that you have previously been engaged in. Something we can learn from, something that we can develop, something that we can build upon.
So, as chairman of the National Chapters Committee, which is the organized supporters wing of Hearts of Folk, one of the things that we did, and Ameenu makes a very strong point about telling the story, talking about the culture, the history. How did I start supporting Hearts of Folk? Unlike many, I wasn't born into the team because my dad wasn't a Hearts of Folk supporter. But I was living in a place called Osu, which is part of the citadel of Hearts of Folk. And you had these old men who on a Sunday would be looking in the sky. And I wonder, what are these old men looking for? They were looking for a rainbow. The rainbow is one of the symbols of Accra Hearts of Folk. And they would say to me, 6-year-old small boy, when you see the rainbow and it drizzles a little bit, Hearts of Folk is going to win. I say this story because there's a mystic about every sport, whether it's electronic or it's the ones you see physically. There's something about sport that galvanizes you. I believe that there's a spirit behind every sport. And it's not necessarily, I'm talking esoteric, but the thing that galvanizes you to love the sport. We're talking about fans not being in certain locations. But there are certain locations or certain sports that still attract full stadia. The question is why? It's a connection. It's a connection because the story has been told from generation to generation. The history is there. The culture is there. Look at Wimbledon. We just finished watching Wimbledon. Full, packed to the rafters. Yeah. The hill is up there, and people are packing the hill, watching on screens. So if we want to go back to the experience I have had, it's about the fact that we're tapping into the culture. We tapped into the mystic of Hearts of Folk. I can speak because that's where I started. So we're going to play a football match. There's a place that would normally take the team to go and dress up. And even there are fans waiting to see the team coming to dress up, to be prepared for the game. You're sitting in the AfroSport Stadium, and then there's a certain angle at which the bus will arrive at the stadium. People are standing watching for when is the bus going to turn that corner, and then hear them shouting, phobia. We tap into that culture, that energy. And people were coming for rallies. We were attending the matches at the training grounds. There were times where if a player misbehaves during a particular game, the next Monday we are at the training grounds and we are telling the player, you better be careful. You're supporting a tradition. So back to your question. It's about keeping the story and the tradition going. And that's what it was. We'd go to Kumasi and announce ahead that we are coming to Kumasi for a rally before the game. Again, we talked about knowing your fans. So Ghanaians are typically a very spiritual people. So tap into the spirituality. People like to pray. So we are going to have a prayer session for a football match. It's once you know what attracts them, bring them. Many people go to church, we go to the mosque, use that energy in football. And it came to a time where some people in churches were being accused of, for those charismatics, they are backsliding, they're falling out of the church because of football. And I say to them that football is a spirit. Football is also a mission field. So if you're not in church on a Sunday and you're at a football game and you're talking to somebody, if you're a Christian, for example, about faith, are you not preaching? It's still a Sunday. You're preaching at the stadium. So those were the things that we did to get people, the pastors will not be happy with me, but move them from church to the stadium. And there are times where it's okay, you go to your church, early morning service, 6 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, you are done. Come to stadium, help us at the gates, make them feel a part of the team, listen to them. And I've had some very hard experiences where we didn't listen to the supporters, and it hurt us in the long run. A team will take a decision. Supporters are against the decision. Maybe we communicate it in a way that's not very savory to the leadership, and so the leadership remains robust. It ends up affecting the team. So listening to the supporters, let them feel a part of the team, defer to them, but don't sacrifice the principles of management. With those practices in place, you still galvanize the support. But very importantly, where's the support? Today, most of the chapters, and let's go to Kotoko, for example, the circles, they are not meeting physically. It's because they are in the social media spaces. So many WhatsApp groups, Hearts of Folk groups, Kotoko groups, different types of groups, engage them over there. They are vibrant. They are talking about the team perpetually. And so then you're transitioning from physical chapters or circles meetings to online meetings. COVID taught us so much. Yeah, there's some negatives of the online experience because maybe you're in the bathroom and you're pretending to be in a meeting, for example. Yeah. But that's on the lighter side. But then if that's where the fans are, that's where we've got to go. But never to forget the fact that the stories are the ones that engage the fans. The stories of history. So if you have a team that hasn't been successful in the last 10 years, all you can remember with nostalgia is where you've been before. So sometimes when I want to give myself some comfort, I say in the year 2001, my brother, this is 23 years ago. Yeah. Accra Folk were ranked 8th best in the world. At least it gives you some comfort that we've been there before. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get there again and keep giving the supporters hope. That experience is what I'm happy to share. And that's the way I think we can still get the interest, whether or not they are physically present. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. All right, let me come to you now, Daniel.
I'll just add to that, because I think what you said there about the getting people into the stadiums. I think it is absolutely hugely important to get people back in. You can't be having empty because it's just, it needs to be there. But exactly that, build a swimming pool nearby. I'm, for my sins, I'm a Brighton and Hove Albion fan. Okay, so Brighton and Hove Albion, not a brilliant, fantastic team in the Premier League in the UK.
Yeah,
however,
taking care of the Ghanaian Tariq Lamptey,
well,
so we have
exactly,
Tariq. Tariq, hey.
Tariq, come on. But we had like 16 years, 17, 18 years where we didn't have a stadium. Didn't have a stadium at all. So we were literally in an athletics ground. Rubbish, more rubbish than you can ever imagine. Porter cabins were where the away teams got changed. But we finally got our new stadium about 12 years ago, a little bit maybe around then. And it's at the heart of the community. And that's what's reinvigorated. People who weren't interested in football particularly. Now you've got families going. You've got kids going to classes there. You've got people turning up to get married there. So all these crazy things that the football ground is not sacred. It is for the community. So that's the number one engagement there. That's where it starts there. Now, let's have a look at digital. So in terms of engagement, I'm just going to throw it out now. Look at it, all the gamers have gone. Yeah, thanks, guys. Right, who here has a Live Scores app? You follow Live Scores on your phone? Hands up, clear. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's the majority of you. How many of you follow the Premier League, the UK Premier League, or La Liga, or the Champions League? Stick your hands up. Okay. Now, gentlemen, we'll have a chat about this later. How many of you follow the live scores and get the stats for the Ghana Premier League? Because of your job. Well, look, I can tell you there is a dearth at the moment. The stats that are collected they're great, but it's the traditional. It's the red card, yellow card, corner, possession. Fans these days are stats hungry. They are savage for stats. Now, partly that's because, as we all know, the explosion in betting over the past 8 years. Okay, so that's where there's sponsorship money. But one of the things as Opta we provide the stats for the English Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Liga, CAF, AFC, and maybe a few hundred other leagues you might have heard of. And what we help people with is that commercialization of those stats, because it's the stats that are driving conversations. Absolutely. That's the conversations. Stats, it's beautiful when you see pundits and they're arguing. Yeah.
Over stats.
There you go, over stats.
Football fans over social media having the arguments over stats.
Stats drives conversations. What is the currency? Well, the currency of football is goals. We all know that. Yeah. But the currency of social media, the currency of marketing, sponsorship, is conversation. And I think we can all agree, the more stats you have, the deeper stats go, the more conversations you can have. Now, how do you make money from this? Okay, so you start, because as we know as fans, we're not Saturday fans, we're not Friday night fans, we're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay? So you have your social media messages, you have your stat of the day, Monday, stat of the day, Tuesday, stat of the day, whatever. You've got collateral, you've got more things to talk about. The stats, again, more stats, more conversations equals more sponsorship opportunities. Okay, so I don't know, Club Beer, they sponsor the goalkeeper stat of the week. Toyota sponsor the aerial duels, or maybe Ghana Air, Rwanda Air sponsors aerial duels stats of the week. So, again, I'm not going to go through everything, but you can think of immediately, anybody here could come up with 10 new revenue streams. Now, extra, who here plays Fantasy League? Put your hands up again, come on.
Fantasy League?
Fantasy League.
Very popular these days, everybody's hoping onto it.
So, gentlemen, do you play Fantasy? No? I don't, well, yeah, betting's for mugs, but anyway, no. But, Fantasy League. Where's the Ghana Premier League Fantasy? Okay, there's another engagement. It doesn't have to be fantasy that is, you start the first season, you start in the first week, And then, if you're like me, after 3 weeks, you're rubbish. You're done. And your son is, you know, shouting all over you. He's ragging on you. He's beating you. But you can get fantasy games that play bi-weekly. So just predictor games. So when you've got the stats, you can create all those different revenue streams, engagement-based. You can create your own fantasy game. Again, how about that, MTN? MTN sponsors the GPL fantasy. And there's lots more. But until you get the data, the stats, you're only ever going to be circling around using the kind of the old, well, it used to be called new media. Remember, new media, it's digital media, but those things that are kind of popular a few years back. So get the stats in, create the new revenue streams, drive the conversations with data-filled stats. There you go.
Right, that's brilliant, really, because...
Oh, sorry, Opta do stats, yeah.
Of course, because these days when you hop onto social media, that is the conversation. Everybody's looking out for the stats. Why is player A better than player B? Why is team A better than team B? And everybody's foregoing even the eye tests and focusing on what the stats are. How many dribbles Mohamed Kudus has in the Premier League? Oh, he's the best dribbler in the world. How many shots have he? And again, I absolutely agree, because that is what the conversation is driving towards. I was going to ask you this one, but I guess your answer from this, or your top up from Neil, is answering that. But again, I'll still ask, because maybe then there's something more you want to add. So I was going to ask that, what innovative media strategies have been the most effective in engaging fans in the African sports industry? And how can these further develop and enhance fan experience and foster deeper connections? Is it still on the start, or there are more?
I'll have a quick go on this. Just obviously, I'm not African. You might have been able to tell. But I'll send you to CAF. Now, if we look at CAF, the Confederation of African Football, and you look, we've been working with CAF since 2019, and there's been, I think, 4 AFCONs in that period. And this last, every AFCON has been getting better. But the recent AFCON, back in January, February, in Ivory Coast, look at the social output. Now, CAF have done a fantastic job there. And look at what they're doing, because they're doing it right. They're getting those sponsors. They can, I think they would all agree, and I know some of the guys, that they can do more. But there's a real success story, the way that they have engaged on social media. So, you know, where's TikTok? Let's get TikTok involved. Let's get, you know, everybody, anybody. But that, for me, I would say is a I know it's the Pan-African, but I would say that CAF have done a really, really good job. How many of you guys watched AFCON this year?
Almost everybody would have seen
okay.
it. Ghana, Mozambique, everybody? You didn't watch that one?
Yeah, I just remembered where I was. I thought maybe I shouldn't have asked, actually. Yeah. Did anybody watch AFCON after the first week? Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, Neil, then I have to come to you on this one. I was going to ask you that, what are the key challenges in engaging fans in rural areas or places that are not necessarily developed, because they can be very passionate, but at times I feel like we don't tap into those places as well. We only look at the surface and those very close to us.
Well, you talked about rural areas. Obviously, it's a question of access. I mean, you've got communities where you cannot access only by boat in our country, for example. So that would be a major challenge. But then, I don't have the exact figures, but if you look at the penetration of mobile telephony, you find that even in the rural areas, a lot has gone on. There might be a much lower budget smartphone in the hands of a person there who is interested in the sport. And so it comes back to what we said earlier on. How do you reach that person over there? Logistics don't allow you to get there physically, so you use the electronic space. But then back to the issue of them being passionate. So there are products of sport that they consume at that level. So if you bring it, let's use the example of Ghana football. So you've got football in the communities being run by the regions, and then you've got the national game at the Ghana Premier League level and then Division 1 League. So in that community, you've got little teams who play their coast football, which is juvenile football. You've got a Division 2 team there. They become the local champions of the team there. You can still tap into the passion at that level by running the same principles. And Ameenu made the point about community teams thriving much more than teams that seem to span not one community. And so, for instance, let's use Dansuma, and I'm just using that as an example. Dansuma, which is a suburb of Accra, when it was that Liberty Professionals were in their prime, they adopted the name Dansuma Liberty Professionals. The strategy that some of us spoke to the late owner was to use the team to lift the community. I believe Dreams MC have done something similar with where they were Deu. And I think the relocation even to, I think the Tuba Kaswa area is going to take it to another level. So in those communities, the passion is for the local game, yes, also for the international game. For the game that they don't have played in their locale, you can tap them by getting into their phones again. For the games that are played in there, the same practices. The Regional Football Association, for example, works to a District Football Association, tap the same principles. There's a local rivalry that is not present in Accra or in a big city. That local rivalry becomes the reason why people will go to the stadium there or the park there to watch. So you find that there are some parks, we call them football parks, in these local or these rural areas. They attract much more attendance than your so-called big games in more modern stadia. So the challenge is there in terms of getting access, but to surmount that challenge, it's about capturing them with products, designing products, packaging products at their level that appeal to them. You still get the passion expressed.
To add to the challenge about access is something that for me, it was an eye-opener when I went to study abroad. Now, every football stadium that I attended to, just across maybe a few meters from the stadium is the train line and the train station not too far off. And when the game is over, everybody's marching towards the train station. What was very, very clear to me was that they've put in the stadium, they've situated it as a particular place where public transportation is easily accessible. Now, one big opportunity that we've faced here in Ghana is our ability to situate our sporting infrastructure within the community and make it very, very accessible. And that's why people will poke fun at people, at us club executives, that people will prefer to go and watch a community game rather than to go to the stadium. And it's very true because...
Just walk to the park.
Exactly, and that's the point I've always made. I use Dreams FC as an example. Dreams FC was formed within the Nima Mamobi enclave. That's where Dreams FC was formed. We play our football almost 90 kilometers away from this place. That in itself is a challenge. Imagine if we were playing our games at Kaukudi. There's no game that won't be overly subscribed by Dreams FC. But we play our games 90 kilometers away from our home fans. And I always made a point. Imagine if Brighton and Hove, for instance, was playing its matches away from Brighton. It would be a nightmare.
It's not going to be the same for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the effect was there. That's the point I'm making. So King Faisal of today will not be able to command a 40,000 capacity stadium, in a Barbara Stadium every week. But guess what? Put them in Abu Abu, in their locale, and it will be overly subscribed. So yes, access has been a major problem in our fan engagement. Identify with your groups, your targeted groups, and make sure the product in which you are selling, the football, is within touching distance of your locale. And for me, if you're able to address this problem, it solves majority of the headaches that.
Yeah, but how then do we address it? Because that's a big issue.
Yes.
As you mentioned, and I'm thinking across the country, across many places as well, there where the clubs are not necessarily at the heart of the communities who care about the clubs. How do you solve that?
We constructed a community park in Abu Abu. We constructed one in Medina. And unfortunately, it didn't meet the standards, and the land was there. So it comes back. We have the solutions are there. The land is there. We didn't utilize it properly. You don't necessarily need to build a 15,000 cap. No, 2,000, 3,000 standard that can play a competitive game, and it's fine. Imagine if it's Medina is standard, 2,000, 3,000. Small stadium, but demarcations of the pitch meets certification and all that. Just imagine. Your washrooms, everything, the basic thing that you need for club licensing is there. Just imagine the effect it will have. It has, and recently the government went on, I think, It's a very exemplary project of building these multi-purpose sports complexes. Unfortunately, another opportunity missed, how we are situating these complexes and whether we are even building them to meet specifications is also another problem. So we cry about, yes, we don't have the resources, but every day in, day out, we are putting up these AstroTurfs. That, unfortunately, does not meet the standards to play our game. So the solutions are within.
So the sense I get here is, I don't know if all of you agree, the sense I get here is that there is perhaps no proper alignment between stakeholders, which is governments, and the stakeholders involved in the direct discipline there, because you are talking about situating a stadium. If they are the doorsteps of those handling football or the Ghana Football Association in this case, the solutions are right there, and you are spilling them.
You're absolutely spot on. There's a big disconnect between people who have the resources to put up this infrastructure and actually the people who are going to consume it. There's a big disconnect. And I think we have to find ways in addressing this problem quite quickly, because then the impact of the investment that we are putting in this infrastructure is almost negated to zero, because you put up the facility and nobody is patronizing it. It goes to rot, and then we have to invest yet another money. But then if you are able to get this connection right and know that if you are putting this standard facility in this community, a football crazy community, and I keep saying, people say Ghanaians are not interested in football. It's wrong. It's a fallacy, because I never thought in my lifetime that Dreams FC, even for a free gate, will be able to command like 30,000 supporters in the stadium. But it happened. Ghanaians got hooked on the consistency of a team in Africa, and they came out to support. Unfortunately, on that day, we didn't win. But it proves that if we are able to do things right, the people are there. They want to consume the game. Yeah. But then we are cutting them off based on the decisions we are making in terms of situating these facilities, and that backs up the access problem that Neil was talking about.
I'll stay on you, but listen, and it's a key thing, because if these engagements are not happening, people are thinking they are building facilities for communities. It could have been better. It could have served a bigger purpose. You know, it could have served a lot more of professional football leagues rather than serving community football and a lot more. But I stay on you on this one. The trends are changing. How do we engage fans? By using social media influencers. These days, you don't even have to be a musician. You don't even have to be a Mohamed Kudus, a footballer. You just have to be somebody popular with your creative art, your skill on social media, TikTok, Instagram, X, you know, and you've got the numbers. People are following, people want to engage you. How do we now begin to take these people serious and get them to maybe help us engage fans?
Well, in my experience, it has to do with investing in the right places. For instance, I'm actively looking for somebody who will come to do my creatives for me. Since I lost Derek some years ago, it has dropped, because yesterday I saw the video that Leicester City did to unveil Fatao.
Brilliant stuff.
Brilliant. I keep watching. I think I've watched it for 30 times already. I keep watching it because it's exciting. And these things, we have people here in Ghana who can domesticate these kind of things within our settings. We have them. Unfortunately, finding them is the problem. Finding them, I must admit, has been it's a major challenge. And also, when you find them, whether you're able to remunerate them well, give them the right equipment for them to churn out the quality that the Gen Zs of today need. So it's about investing in the right areas. I mean, it's not cheap. If you're going to sustain a campaign on digital media, quality content, churn out consistently, it doesn't come cheap at all. So a lot of people who are on the backs of football clubs for not doing these kind of things must understand that it costs a lot of money first to find the right people, equip them with the right equipment, and then also resource them to go into areas where they can pick up this kind of thing and put it together to churn out the very good content. It costs a lot of money. Unfortunately, the clubs here, we are always looking at the basic necessities. And even with the basic necessity, we are not able to even meet them properly. How dare do you think of going to the extra? And that's for me is a problem. So it has to do with investment. Unfortunately, we are still struggling to raise the requisite level of investment that will translate into churning out these quality things that we need to sustain over a period of time to engage our fans.
Right. You want to say?
I mean, for me, I hear Ameenu, and I would associate myself with the aspect of investment. But I also have, I come from a paradigm that says, how can we use what we have to get what we want? It might not be the optimal, but even if it's a minimalist initial approach that becomes incremental over time, we might want to begin looking at it. So I facilitate and train administrators in marketing and branding, and say to them that you may want to buy a camera like the ones that we're using here today, but you don't have the money to buy it. But you have people in your team who have some iPhone, a very high-spec iPhone. You have 3 or 4 of them who have high-spec iPhones. What stops them from being trained on how to use that camera to at least start taking certain videos and use them on your social media spaces? So it might be minimalist, but at least it's starting from somewhere. That way you begin getting noticed. And as you getting noticed, you get some resources coming through. Again, you have clubs that don't engage, or sporting entities, let's not limit it to football, who don't engage enough with the communities in which they are. You have a sporting entity located in a rural area, and they come to a multinational company asking for sponsorship. And yet there's a local farmer in there who has the resources to support them. They don't approach that local farmer. There was a story I told about a project we did in Liberia, where it was a farm project. The guys were looking at the big companies, the Cellcoms of the Liberian world at the time, and I said, let's go to this farming organization. And in the off-season, when it is that our players are resting, occasionally, let's go and support the organization with labor, because the boys are at home doing nothing, some of them getting into vices. And let's see whether it will not touch a certain nerve in the heart of that farmer. Cut a long story short, by the second year, when the team had gone helping with the harvest, the gentleman says, you guys come and help me. You don't charge me a father. You don't charge me anything. What can I do to help the team? Then they had the door open and got resources from the farmer to run the team. So for me, it's about being creative, about using what we have to get what we want. And when it is that what we have is human labor without going against safeguarding principles that an organization would have concerning the sport, let's do it, and you get results. So yes, resources will be a challenge. Again, what paradigms do the persons who run these sporting organizations work with? Many a time, the notion is investing in media, investing in marketing, investing in projects that are related to image building. They are seen as cost and not as being investment. And until that paradigm changes, we'll continue running around in circles. If we can get to the paradigm that says it's not cost, it's investment. It's investment towards building an image that will attract resources, then we can begin getting those resources.
That's powerful. Really is. We're going to say something after what Ameenu said. You had something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that is the absolute perfect way of saying it. This is an investment. So I speak to a lot of leagues and a lot of federations, and everybody says, we've got no money. There isn't one federation or one league that said to me, do you know what, Dan? We've got, millions spare. No, I'm never going to hear it. and that's at Europe as well. But it's just twisting the mindset into this is an investment, because you can make money from it. Don't look at it as being the cost. And I challenge you a little bit there on when you're saying it is expensive. Smartphones aren't expensive. And look at they've all gone, but the gamers, but all those, the influencers, most of them started with maybe a pretty crappy smartphone, not even an iPhone. Yeah. It doesn't have to be an iPhone. Techno make brilliant ones, Samsung, blah, 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 So actually, to get somebody in their bedroom talking about your team is peanuts. But the trick is finding those people, but then they're on social media already. So all you have to do is you have to go on TikTok, have a look who are the most popular, and say, hey, do you fancy doing a little spot for the Ghana Premier League? Yeah. Here, we've got all these new wonderful stats you can talk about, perhaps. So yeah, it's an investment frame of work, frame of mind, and that's important for the government as well, because sometimes governments do need to give a boost to a league to start. But then once that boost has happened, then leagues should be able to run themselves. But sometimes everybody needs a bit of a boost. But yeah, as I say, I don't disagree with that. But it's not as expensive marketing these days with TikTok as people think. And we know that if you get somebody in the crowd, if you run down and I just come down here now, I'll chase you, and then I get that girl there, and I put her up as the face of AfroSport. All her mates are going to go crazy. She's going to go crazy. Everybody wants to be, suddenly there. So, who's the best fan at the stadium? Where's that crazy 20-second clip? Boom. People love it. So you don't need big studios, you don't need lighting, you don't need all that stuff that traditionally comes with TV. You just need somebody who's nimble on their feet with a smartphone. I think is the possibly one of the biggest engagement things. One other thing I was just going to say I'm not sure how long we've got, but in terms of strategies, again, is following the money. We know the bookies, we know the betting companies, they're making tens and tens of millions. At the moment, you don't have a stats watch. So it could be there you go. Monday stats watch, Tuesday stats watch, but every week, sponsored by the bookies. Get them in, they're taking enough money out from everybody's pockets, so let's bring them back in, and sponsored by, etc., etc. So I think actually there's a lot of exciting things. You're not sat here in an environment of, oh my God, where's it all going? Where's the money going to come from? Where's the sponsorship? No, there's dozens of new streams out there, but you've got to get them.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your thoughts today. But I'll take final words from you on the subjects, on fan engagement and the media strategies. Anything that we've not asked, anything that you want to ask before I come to we come to the audience, then we take the questions from them. So your final words on that.
Look, as you've said, as you might have guessed, it's all about the stats. Stats lead to conversations. Conversations lead to engagement. Engagement leads to more sponsorship. More sponsorship equals more money. More money means better football.
Neil?
Well, Daniel said it all. But essentially, it's really about having the paradigm that says any investment made in engaging the fans, or anything spent on engaging fans, is not cost, it's investment. For me, that's really where we should be, and then going to where the fans are, irrespective of the sports. I mean, one of the growing ones is arm wrestling, for example. I mean, and it's being done in the community. So you build a small table, and they are there doing their stuff, and the crowds are around, and they bring maybe one traditional sport like local wrestling to be a side show. It's just let's call it being consumer-centric. Center on the consumer, find what makes them tick, give it to them, and we'll engage them much, much better.
Thank you very much, Neil. Ameenu?
I'm all about studying the trends, understanding the consumer, and trying as much as possible to meet the ever-growing needs of the consumer. And I think once we are able to do that, we'll obviously address this issue of access, because by studying them and trying to meet them, you are trying to address the issue of access and all that. Once we are able to do that, I'm sure we'll be able to build our engagement with our fans.
All right, so now, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll take some questions. Anybody has a question? All right, so somebody...
What was the first question? When's lunch?
Lunch is right after this session. Okay, now I'll get down to you. I'll bring you the mic. Then you ask the question. Gentlemen can then address them.
Thank you, Sitsofe. My name is Felix Romak. Very, very happy to see my very good friends as part of the speakers on this stage. I have been covering the Ghana Premier League for the past 10 years, picking data, and it's as basic as Daniel said. I spend 4,000 euros every season picking those basic data until I got somebody to buy the data. But I've gotten to a position where I'm competing with other countries in wanting more than just assists, yellow cards, goals, and maybe clean sheets. Sometimes, with these particular challenges that we have in terms of data and fan engagement, I've always said that the FA has a very key role, especially when it comes to the data. And before this new administration, which is the Ket-led administration, came, we didn't have anything on data when it comes to the Ghana Premier League. But now you can go to the FA website and get a bit of the data there. But I want to pose this to Neil. What is the FA doing with the clubs to at least improve the data that currently is being picked? I know for the clubs, excuse me to say, they are very lazy, so they don't even see the essence of picking those data. But at the end of the day, they are at a disadvantage. Ameenu happens to be a Black Star team manager. I'm sure that whenever the Black Stars coach wants to pick his players for a particular national assignment, even though they look at the performance of the players, they bring out data. So if somebody like Emmanuel Keyeke, who won the Premier League Summer Test, comes out to compete for a place in the Black Stars, where will be the data to back his performance? It could be that he's even doing better than some of the players that are playing in the foreign league, but we don't have anything to back the performance that he showed on the pitch. So what is the FA doing to improve on that? And in terms of the club, I have supported Atsrim all my life. I've lived in Dansoman, and I supported Liberty. Anyway, every Ghanaian is either supporting Hearts or Kotoko. I support Liberty, I support Atsrim. Back then in Dansoman, Neil said it, everywhere you go, you know that there's a club in Dansoman. Currently, our clubs have moved away from that traditional form of engagement with fans. I go to the bookshop to buy books. I see pictures of Real Madrid players, Barcelona players, all over exercise books that these kids will be using in our school. Hearts of Oak can go to Nima. There's a lot of printing press in Nima. Print players who plays in the Ghana Premier League. For me, who even covers the league, and I've been doing that for the past 10 years, I met a Tamale City player in Circle. The guy called me and said, "You don't know me." I said, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Samson. I play for..." I don't know every one of them. But these are ways that the clubs can catch those who are coming up. A lot of these young guys who are 10 years old can even point and tell you the logos of European clubs than what we have in the Premier League. And it's quite sad that even for this summit, I was expecting to see a lot of the Premier League clubs here. But things like this, they don't have interest in them. Hearts of Oak have over 500,000 people following them on Twitter. How are they leveraging on even on the YouTube? You can get guys who have completed school and want to go into sports media or content creation. Hand over your YouTube or social media channel. Now, every channel is being monetized. You can make money from YouTube, even Twitter. Last month, I got like 900 cities. I said, wow, these guys are paying. So imagine for Hearts of Oak, the large numbers that they have. And then back to the FA. I don't know if we've studied the demography of the teams that are playing the Ghana Premier League. And I'm saying this because for fans to come to the stadium and watch games, have we also studied the kickoff time? Because now we are competing with a lot of the European leagues. In Ghana, we don't play tea time or early kickoff, like 11 a.m., 10 a.m. I don't know why. But should the game be rained off at 3 p.m., we go back and play the following day at 10 a.m. We should also try as much as possible. I don't know how the FA is going to do this. Watch some of the European games so that we don't have a clash of a Ghana Premier League big game with some of the big European games that we have in Europe. These are ways that we can also get the fans to watch our games. And I've always been saying this. It is not only Accra and Kumasi. I have traveled across all the league centers. And I know that people in the rural areas, if you go to Pichim and you put a game at 10 a.m., they will close their shops and come. You can't even play 3 p.m. in Accra. A lot of these people are working for the government and other private sectors. They don't leave their offices to come and watch a 3 p.m. game in Accra. And sometimes to the clubs themselves, they need to also market their games. Today, Hearts and Kotoko are playing in the evening. I'm sure only about 4 people in this hall knows that there is a big game like that. They are not leveraging on their games. They are not even giving updates on their game. For Ameenu's team, Dreams FC, I've enjoyed what they've done with social media in recent times. Constant updates, constant, engagement with the fans. So I want to ask, is there a possibility that the FA can look at the kickoff time? Is there a possibility that the FA can move from the basic data that we have in the league into a much more comprehensive and a wider database? Thank you.
Thank you for the comprehensive question.
So the
And
question
suggestions, yes.
was what you asked at the end. Okay, and I think that you did make some interesting suggestions in the submission, and I wouldn't say that those things have not been looked at by the FA, but to the direct question of what's the FA doing, you're looking at, we talked earlier on about the paradigms. So it starts with the paradigms of those of us who run the game. If those paradigms remain what they are today, we'll come back to a summit like this, and Felix, you say the same things you have said. So it starts with the paradigm. It's about how do we shift, and paradigms take time to shift. All right, so whilst we're working on those paradigms, it's also to interest people who have certain levels of expertise in careers in sport. Because I'm mentoring 3 young men as we speak. And the reason why I'm mentoring them is because they're very brilliant young men. One of them had 8 A's in the WASI. He was offered law in one of the universities and told his dad he wanted to study psychology leading to sport management. And the dad says, why? It's again a paradigm even at that level that we don't see future in careers in sports. And it's a paradigm that I'm working on breaking. So I said, let the chap come to me. And for 2 weeks now, the father keeps calling and saying that the young man is energized, he's happy, because he will find a career in sport one way or the other. If it's not in Ghana, where a lot of times we don't understand and recognize the value that these professions bring to the sport, he will get it elsewhere. Some of us are products of FIFA projects because in Ghana at the time, there wasn't an understanding of what marketing would do for football. They'll come and poach. He'll still get a career. So what's the FA doing? We've introduced video analytic courses because the data would come from how you analyze your videos. You talked about the Black Stars camp. It's derived from video. So video whilst the games are going on live, and then when you have a recorded game, you come and you tap from there. Every statistic beyond the basic ones that we see, you can derive from the video analytics. So there are 2 of these video analytics courses that have been run already, and more will be run. And it's to interest more and more people in there. But beyond training them, the club owners who must invest in these things. It's about paradigm shifting. We have a congress coming up soon. It's one of the things that I believe our president will speak about. He talks about engaging the 12th man. It's about the fan. Without the 12th man, the game is not the game. So not to be too long about the response, is equipping enough people to tap into the resource that will help us to churn out the kind of data that makes for exciting storytelling and working on the paradigms of our club owners. And that definitely takes time. And the truth is, some of them, they don't even see it. It's a fact. But you can only keep working at it and showing the value that you derive from it. I look forward to a day where you have 3 model clubs that practice some of the things you spoke about and we've discussed here. When it is that the success stories of those clubs are being told and they've made the kind of money that they can make from it, I believe other clubs will follow.
To just add briefly to what Neil is saying, what, for instance, we are trying to do, and we are going to do comprehensively as Dreams FC for all our clubs. Dreams FC still believe in God we trust, and all the clubs that are under the Dreams FC. All the team managers have been equipped and have been charged to collect data during matches. For instance, if a goal is scored, who scored the goal? Where did the goal come from? The left, the right, through the air? Was it a rebounded shot? Who gave the assist? Did he score with his right foot, his left foot? These are basic things that we believe if you're able to gather, it even helps the coaches in making decisions. And that's why when Abdulaziz gets a ball in a certain area, we are very certain he's going to score because we know he's used to scoring from that angle. So I believe if all the clubs in Ghana begin to pick these little data, for instance, a player is substituted at the 68th minute, it goes into his number of minutes he's played over the season. These are things that I think the clubs should take over from. We should not necessarily need to wait for the FA to gather these things. The team managers or officials of the team must be taxed because they travel with the team anyway. They go everywhere. They are the games. We should be able, individually as clubs, be able to gather this data for our own good, not for the good of course, ultimately it affects the industry, but then it's to our ultimate benefit, which is helping the coaches in making right decisions and all that.
Okay, so yeah, a quick comment to the discussion. Despite that, my friend, he's in the opposing side because I support Kotoko, and he was nearly relegated. But we'll take it like that. You must repent. So On the issue of football, it's good that in this room you have different people, administrators, you have the GFA, you have fans, everybody in here. All that I would like to tell everybody is that the FA might be the policy maker, but when it comes to developing football, everybody has a role to play, no matter where you sit, because I'm fascinated by the work my brother is doing, because data is good. Data is what drives modern development, because if you don't have the data, what are you talking about? We have also decided to also come out with green football. What is it to do? To make sure that the clubs also reduce their operational costs and attract alternative sources of funding. The GFA can't do it all at the same goal. They will try to put in the platform upon which everybody can jump. As we jump, at a point, we all converge and also have a discussion. And there will be partners in all that. So no matter where you sit, no matter where you are coming from, I think that whatever you are doing, if we do it right and we all aim at the goalpost, at the end of the day, there will be a score. Once there's a score, there's jubilation. Nobody jubilates alone. Unless maybe you are the only one sitting, it will be a pool of people, and football times on what? Teamwork. So let's continue to bits and pieces, drive whatever we are driving, and converge. And always see the GFA as a partner who is there to support and give us the leverage for us to jump.
I'm Samuel, a sports psychologist. One area that is being neglected is about the psychology of either the players or the fans. So I'm asking whether we have enough data concerning the psychology of the reasons why fans are not coming to the stadium. Thank you.
Yes, please. Panel?
The question was whether there's data
Yes.
on why the fans are not coming. Is that the question? I wasn't
Yes,
sure. Because you talked about players and then you came to the fans, so I got a bit
Yes,
lost.
I spoke about players and fans because psychology has been neglected. So when it comes to players, physical, technical, tactical things are used, but the psychology aspect of handling the players is either minimal or it's not there. Then I switched on to the fans. We also have the psychology of the fans, knowing the reasons why, the cognitive, the emotional, and the attitudinal reasons why fans are not coming to the.
What's going on in the ecosystem? We know the level of interest that there is in our leagues, because a lot of times, in times past, you had players who spend long enough in the Ghana Premier League, become stars in their own right, and attract fans to the stadium. The phenomenon we see today is at the age of 18, 19, the topmost talent, they leave this country. So you're left with those who are not your topmost talent, and you need to find a way to still mine an image around them, or derive an image around them that attracts people to the stadium. So it's about attraction. You've got competing forces. So Felix spoke about, for example, playing matches at different times. So to your question, I cannot claim to say I'm aware of a study, all right, that has all that data in a place. I cannot claim it. I'll not be being truthful. But in terms of the notional understanding of what is going on, it is there. And it drives some of the work that is being done. I think that there's every space for a study into getting stronger data. And then going there. But the underlying factors, we know quite a number of them. Yes, thank you.
Obviously, I can't speak for Ghana specifically, but just in terms of that, the psychological reasons why people come to stadiums, it's not just psychological, it's I mean, you were talking about it before. If the stadium is at the heart of the community, but one, and I lived in Cape Town for a number of years, and a beautiful stadium that's just empty most of the time. Why? Because the transport links were rubbish. To the people that actually want to go and should be in there, and that is their space, the transport links. So why don't people come? One, it's expense. Two, transport's too much of a pain in the backside. Three, maybe they're scared, maybe there's violence. I mean, look, I grew up in the 80s in the UK. Football violence was everywhere. We've pretty much got rid of that now. I take my kids, I take my daughter. Beautiful. You know, it's a family day out. So these are all the things. It's ease. If you make it easy, if you make it cheap, if you make it safe, and if you make your money selling chips and beer, then fine, you can have cheapest tickets. So those are the things that I think any one of us, can't be bothered, too difficult to get to. Trains a pain in the backside. Well, I'm scared, I can't take my kids. They might get something thrown at them. So I think that's just universal in the psychology of humanity, that as to why people go to events. And then maybe, what about the entertainment? Maybe there's, I don't despise, that's a bit wrong, but the Super Bowl, the NFL, all the razzmatazz, the sport plays second to all that rubbish. But the point being is, what about a bit of entertainment? You get the school band playing, you get the school, doesn't have to be big pop, can be pop stars, whatever, but you get, make it more fun, make it accessible, and the people will come flooding back, because people love, we are a tribal species. We are a pack species. So getting together in football matches is one of those culminations of what is something that is in humanity since we walked out of caves, I think. So anyway, there you go.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Frank Apia. I'm a lecturer in sports management. I would want to turn my question into a contribution, looking at what we are discussing. And so, listening to Mr. Shardow, I immediately wanted to know about your club as a manager. So I went online. And I realized that you have a social media presence, Twitter, but you don't have a website. And so it goes back to fan engagement. How do I know the players in there? And then the contribution is that the FA should have a governance regulation system for the clubs. If there's such a system, you'll be bound to put up such a website. Your players will be displayed. Then the data statistics that someone said here will show. So they can quickly pick up those data from your website. As they do, not only are you marketing your club, but also the players, you see. Then there's another thing someone asks about psychology. We lack research. In context, I have a paper on factors affecting stadium attendance in the Ghana Premier League. You can search online. There are a lot of factors that are affecting us, but we don't do research. And so if we are unable to blend research and industry together, we will not be able to understand the psychology. What is really the fundamentals? There are a lot of things that the fans are not happy about, honestly. And always, I think the FA has a lot of role to play to be able to bring the clubs together and also meet the needs of the fans, because they are the ones bringing the revenue, and they fill up the stadium. And Price talked about the Super Bowl experience and all that. If we should do an opening ceremony and don't bring up any entertainment to the Ghana Premier League, how are we going to create an entertainment? Who is going to watch? Nobody. Look at our stadiums. All these things are in my paper. And so we should look at governance and research in how we can blend these two together to uplift the face of sport and football. Thank you very much.
Sorry, just a quick one. I think your contribution is well welcome. Perhaps we should get closer, as football clubs, get closer to people in academia to help us do research and also to research on works that have already been done. Just to brief correction, yes, you don't see the website. We have a website, www.dreamsfc.com.gh. When you click on it, it will tell you site is under construction. We've suffered some viral attacks, but there's a website. We are working on it to get it back and running. But your contributions are very, very well noted and welcome. Thank you.
Okay, quick one. My name is Shogo. I think we have two types of fan engagement. In Africa, it is, I prefer physical engagement, and also we are trying to bring in online engagement. But what is important in both is the safety of our fans. Now, why are people not coming to stadium? We have to do factual analysis of fan engagement, which is very important. Safety is first. What are the things you're trying to put in place to bring people to stadium? Our kids are no longer watching our local matches because our stadiums are not too safe for them to come. What are the things you're trying to put in place to get a better atmosphere for us to bring our children and for people to watch football?
At the end of the day, so identify those who make the stadium unsafe and deal with them properly. I mean, there are regulations that the FA has to do that, but then beyond that, it's also engaging with law enforcement to ensure that where it is that there are people who are found culpable, you do it. And in the last season, there have been some instances where there were issues at some games, and the police took the matters up. Some of the people were arraigned before court. I think a couple were jailed, as far as the information has go. But it comes back to enforcement of what needs to be enforced, or the rules that have to be enforced, and we need to be stronger on those. And to the point about connecting industry with research, I think it's spot on. Every country that has developed has prioritized research, and not even limiting it to sport. This nation doesn't prioritize research. It's a fact. And that's why we struggle with so many things in our national development. But that's another conversation. But thanks very much for the contribution. I shall certainly see you after this program.
That's why we are here to network. Well, we've got 2 more questions to go. Don't worry, panel. When you have an interesting topic of interest, you get a lot of questions. So please bear with us. So that makes it 3. So 3 final questions or 3 final takes. And I know we are hungry, but let's just do this. Sir.
Thank you for your contributions and the discussions. Well, to build on the issue about research, I still think that it's one aspect that I wouldn't want to limit it to the FA or our sporting organizations. And why do I say this? At Lavra in 2005, that was where 2 of my senior colleagues, I was doing my master's, the others were doing their PhD. And we're now talking about data. We're now talking about data and video analysis in giving feedback. That time, rugby and tennis has started using video analysis. The English FA wanted to be ahead of it. So they sponsored 2 PhDs in doing that. In 3 years' time, they realized that the video analysis that they are giving the feedback to, they realized the players look miserable, looking themselves in order. Then they attacked, how can we find psychological ways of enhancing video feedback analysis? And that also generated another form of research. The issue about the Ghana Premier League not being attended, I've been expecting that the FA put up a research fund, that we are inviting researchers based on issues that we think are affecting our game. And then once you pool those funds, that is how big technological firms and other things get the monies, and then they get the researchers to research into it, and then on the basis of that, use the finding to do that. I'm not only limiting that to the case of the research aspect that we are talking about. How many of our federations, be it tennis or so, Sanhee Park Astellin, one of our PhD students, was a former South Korean Wimbledon and then Olympic athlete. That was the South Korean Tennis Federation that invested in her to come to Sterling to work with Lavali on career transition so that they could do that for others. We've not invested a single bit of that. And more so, we talk about people not coming to the stadium. Clubs, and I've been in football before, and I made a strong case why we shouldn't invest in paying solely to the media to promote our games. Basically because the economics were not making sense. Why? You look at the income statement after all the deductions. Why do you want me to invest, pay all these, and then when I get the gate proceeds, government is taking this, and it's not even the amount that is going to government or the stadium renters and other things. They are not willing to even recognize the investment that you've made in promoting the game. So that one sits with the club as their own cost. And you want me to invest to get the funds into the stadium. That is also another aspect that we don't think we've done enough in ensuring that the clubs don't even pay that huge amount of money as VAT. I still don't see why Shatawale and the rest, the entertainment industry, get 3% VAT rate, but football or sporting institutions are not getting that. Because football has not been able to make the case of their contribution to GDP. And that one should be the mandate of the sporting institutions in liaising with Ghana Statistical Services to tally and give us the economic impact analysis of all these that. We've done the economic impact analysis of all the major tournaments. But ask yourself, the recent just ended All African Games. What is the study to review with regards to economic impact analysis? And the last 4 or 5 tournaments that Ghana has hosted, there is not a single academic paper to that. That if I'm a policy maker or I'm even interested in supporting sporting entity, there is no reference point why, if I'm an IMF consultant, I should allow Ghana to sponsor another to host another major tournament, because there is nothing like that. The issue about governance that they said is critical. Our clubs want us to believe that football belongs to only the football community and the football people. So why do I care? If you say you belong to yourself and you always want to make the case that football is like the Ghana Bar Association and then the Association of Bankers, you've forgotten that Association of Bankers and Ghana Bar Association don't need the funds in their stadium. So you need to give that representation and let them feel that form of investment. Nail it with the example in Liberia. Sunderland with Caterpillar did a project whereby that time Jordan Henderson and the rest were going to the schools to promote literacy and English. Can you imagine the FA with Dedayu Kudus in Nima promoting football and education? Once you are doing that, and I'm UNICEF or I'm MTN, and I have something to promote education, I will give you the money. But I don't see our clubs. None of our clubs do corporate social investment. And you just want us to come in to the stadium. You want to take, but you never want to give. So the club should also feel that responsible and then see how best they are also investing in. Then on the issue about even the FA governance structure, something that I'll be presenting on later on, you can't tell me that you don't need independent members on the FA board and the clubs. You need individuals who are not necessarily seen as part of you, so that those external people come in. And it's on that basis that the English FA, they appoint 2 independent directors who have nothing to do with football, so that the stakeholders can be aligned and feel that, oh, this is not a cabal of just people who are running football. Until we open up on that level, we cannot get there. How do you expect government to invest in those astroturfs and get the football population involved? Look at what we normally used to call government and stakeholder engagement at the FA. When was the last time, with the exception of Black Star budget, have we seen that the FA or any of the sporting entities are engaging government on technical issues and then the need for them to invest in the game? So they will go ahead and construct those pitches without your input, because there is that disconnect, because you think that you are a quasi-independent body, that you don't need their investment. So they will also do something with the purpose of winning their political scores, because they think that they are also providing those facilities to win political power, not necessarily to promote the game. So that has become the issue that we confront. Unless we open up and accept that there are others who may not necessarily be football enthusiasts, but you also leverage on their clout to get what you also want. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think Doc has made a very, very fantastic point, and it goes to the heart of the topic. The critical aspect of every engagement is to connect. Wherever there's a disconnect, you will not be able to achieve the kind of engagement that you are looking for. So yes, as far as we are concerned, like clubs, the FA, we must be open enough to bring in the kind of people we want to win over, the public. Football is a public good. Yes, you might have your own football club, you might have your own federation, but you are doing it to serve the people. And if the people are continuously rejecting whatever you are doing, or you are not patronizing as much as you want it, you need to look into it and find ways of reconnecting to these people for them to patronize your product. So you are absolutely spot on, Doc. But for the entities who are constructing these facilities, like I'm saying, you always construct facility to achieve the maximum possible target. Now, if you are putting up this infrastructure and later on you need to invest even more resources to open it up to meet standards, then I dare say we are not achieving that. It's still public funds anyway. We must demand that the public funds are expended in the best interest of the public. So if you are putting up a marginal facility and you are saying that because the FA feels independent and you are not opening up, you are going to put up something substandard which cannot be used, then I don't think we are going to go anywhere. We need to be up and doing, collaborate with the relevant agencies, and do things that will benefit us in the ultimate. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kwame from K-Sports. I think I'll pick it from where he left it when he made mention about investment. And for me, it is high time you must know that sports is business. We have traveled away from where we were doing for fun to where it's a business. It's a pure business. Therefore, whatever we are doing in sports, we must know that we are investing. I went to Accra House of Four, I went to Kotoko, and I went to some clubs that I wanted to do data collection for them. I told them I was not collecting any cash up front, but rather do it. Whenever you use the data to make money, I'll make money. Most of them didn't understand it, and they couldn't even do it. And in this country, what I realized is that most clubs want to keep everything by themselves. And when you hold things by yourselves alone, you never get things done. It is time we must allow people to come in. You may be expertise in A or B. Somebody may come in this. Sit down. They are lawyers. That is why they are lawyers in the system. Sit down and say, okay, if I'm a Accra as a full person, or I'm a Kotoko person, or I'm a Dream FC person, and Nee comes in, yes, although Nee has, but he's coming in because he sees a potential with Dream FC that you want to partner with them. We must be ready to align with them and say, okay, what is Nee bringing on board? Are we going to make money out of what Nee is bringing or not? If yes, forget about whether he's House of Four. He's coming as a professional. We shouldn't always look at things as if, oh, Chaladi, way there. We don't want other people to come in. Everybody want to hold everything to themselves. So I applaud that, look, we need investment. But more importantly, if the FA, may I call something match up? Look, most people who do sports in this country don't have money. A lot of people, few people are doing it as a business. But majority, let's take Alaji Gruza, for instance. Now, he's done football for so long a time that he can't leave it. Now that whether he's making money. So the idea is that, who are we grooming these players for? It's for the nation. Look, if tomorrow, when Del United got out from where you guys are, there was going to be a serious problem over there because, look, when a team gets out of a place and there's no sporting activities over there, there's going to be armed robbers, people are going to lose jobs. There is a bunch of other things. So me, what I'm suggesting, I know we will get a better platform with the FA and mention this, but what we could do is that the FA could put a matching concept so that when somebody forms a club and he gets to, let's say, Division 1 or Division 2, we can do assessment if provided, and this goes also with policy directions, if provided they will be accountable, then we could say that, okay, for 100% you put in, when we assess it, we will match it with 25%. On that basis, people who do the investment, then they can give a proper records to the FA for them to also have a 25% investment in them by the FA. Because if a player is doing better, the FA picks up and then the player plays for the national team. Therefore, let's begin to invest also in the minor clubs who don't have the capacity. If they think, if Kotoko and Haas think we don't need your help, so be it. But the league is not about Kotoko and Haas. It's about 16 or 18 clubs playing. Therefore, I believe it is time the FA must invest in the clubs because they don't have money. Left to most, even premier clubs, they will leave the league because the cost of financing the league in this country, traveling around, is so expensive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments from panel?
For me, I think your suggestions are, but obviously there are investments that are going to the clubs as we speak, and we've copiously reported on them. Some clubs are getting physical cash, some are getting equipment. So those are investments. The question is, how much can you do? Running a football club in this country, if you look at the budgets of some of these clubs, it goes into millions of cedis. So the concept that our president has is, how do you empower them to make their money? And so, for example, you have clubs that have got players of average age 24, 25, 26. Where are they going to sell these players to? And we need to understand that this country is a selling country when it comes to football. What do I mean by selling country? We produce players to sell. I'm saying it bluntly because that is the reality. And until those of us in the industry, we are talking football because you spoke about football, come to a realization that we are a selling country. What products will you sell that will make you the kind of money you need to run your clubs? You sell players of age 18, 19, 20. How do we market these ones when they are that young to promote the league whilst they are here so that when they are gone, we'll not be bereft of talents? What conveyor belt do we have as clubs to keep churning out those talents? Because the reality is the topmost ones, 18, 19, 20, worst case 21, they are not going to stay in this country. It's a fact. So market them at that age, derive whatever value you can derive out of them at that age, get the fans excited about them when they are that young, because they're not going to stay with you. And when they go there, they make money, foreign direct investment comes back. Doc talk about doing an economic impact analysis of what sports, not only football, does for this country. So the investments will go on, but it's empowering the clubs to understand that we are a selling country. It's a fact. When we have that understanding, every year, every club will be working with the mindset that we are a selling country. What player is there in my squad that can go out this year? Which player am I producing to replace him? And that way, I think that we can make headway with seeing sports as a true business and not as a pastime.
Hello, everybody. Cynthia Mumbo here, founder and CEO of Sports Connect Africa. I know everyone's hungry, so one statement. I'm just going to reiterate what we've talked about and the question that you've brought around investment. But we're talking about fan engagement. So what investment is going on behind the conversation? What strategies are there? And so, you know, we talk about we want to do digital, we want to do this, we want to do that. But what strategy and investment are we thinking about? Simple.
Well, I'll get back to you in about a week's time after this conference, yeah.
For me, it's part of the investment is, if you talk at the FA level, like Felix said earlier on, 4 or 5 years ago, you wouldn't have gotten the kind of data that you're getting out of the FA. We didn't have social media spaces. And so there's been a major uptick in that side. That doesn't go to say that it's sufficient, but it's a start. And I believe that the more we engage in engagements like this, and we are deliberate about mining every space that we engage with our fans with, we should be generating the kind of resources that we need to run both the game at the FA level and then also for the clubs to get some benefit out of it. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our panel. And of course, for yourself as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Neil Armstrong-Mortagbe. Thank you very much, Daniel Price. Thank you very much, Ameenu Shardow. This has been very, very a good one to have. Brilliant stuff. All right, so then it's time to have lunch. Lunch is an hour, after which we'll be back here to continue with 2 more sessions. It's going to be a presentation on a research and, of course, a workshop. So then we'll take the break. After an hour, we'll be back here. See you.